On this edition for Saturday, January 2nd, record hospitalizations from COVID-19 continue into the new year as vaccinations are being administered at slower rates than hoped.
Madison heading out for a senior parade.
A look back at some of the stories we aired in the unprecedented year of 2020.
Follow the rules.
And singer-songwriter Rufus Wainwright, Unfollowing the Rules. Next on PBS NewsHour Weekend.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Anderson Family Fund, Bernard and Denise Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg, the Leonard and Norma Chlorfine Foundation. We try to live in the moment to not miss what's right in front of us. At Mutual of America, we believe taking care of tomorrow can help you make the most of today. Mutual of America Financial Group, retirement services and investments.
For 25 years, Consumer Cellular's goal has been to provide wireless service that helps people communicate and connect. We offer a variety of no-contract plans, and our U.S.-based customer service team can help find one that fits you. To learn more, visit consumercellular.tv.
Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Hospitalizations and deaths from COVID-19 continue to surge, with nearly 1/4 of all confirmed cases globally reported right here in the United States. California reported a record 585 deaths in a single day from the virus yesterday, and many hospitals there are reaching capacity. Governor Gavin Newsom announced yesterday that the Army Corps of Engineers will be sent to upgrade outdated oxygen delivery systems at 6 Los Angeles area hospitals. Nearly 26,000 Californians have died from COVID-19. Vaccinations continue to roll out more slowly than predicted. Nearly 3.5 million people nationwide have been vaccinated in the past 3 weeks, according to Bloomberg's tally of CDC data. That's about 1% of the population. Globally, there are now more than 84 million cases of COVID-19. India tested its vaccine delivery system today as it prepares for a nationwide rollout. Yesterday, India, with the highest number of cases after the U.S., approved emergency authorization for its first vaccine developed by AstraZeneca and Oxford University. The United Kingdom received its first doses of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine today. The UK was the first country to approve that vaccine on Wednesday. Health officials there are aiming to vaccinate as many as 2 million people per week. In Northwest France, where a nationwide curfew is in effect, an underground New Year's Eve rave drew at least 2,500 people. Police said that more than 1,200 people were fined for gathering illegally. Authorities urged all of those who attended to quarantine for 7 days. More Republican senators, led by Texas Senator Ted Cruz, say they will challenge the Electoral College certification vote this Wednesday. In a joint statement today, 11 senators say they will object to the Electoral College returns unless Congress appoints, quote, an electoral commission with full investigatory and fact-finding authority to conduct an emergency 10-day audit of the election returns in the disputed states. The group cites as precedent an investigation of fraud charges in the election of 1876. The statement acknowledges that the certification of President-elect Joe Biden's win is likely. This challenge is separate from one already announced by Missouri Republican Senator Josh Hawley. With objections from one senator and one House member, the House and Senate will be required to hold debates on the Electoral College votes before certification. A federal judge threw out a lawsuit filed by Texas Congressman Louis Gohmert and several Arizona Republicans that sought to force Vice President Mike Pence to help tip the election to President Trump. The judge, a Trump appointee, ruled late yesterday that Gohmert and the others lacked standing to sue. The lawsuit was filed ahead of Wednesday's congressional vote to certify President-elect Joe Biden's victory in the Electoral College. It attempted to argue that only Vice President Pence, who the Constitution requires to preside over the certification, has the authority to decide whether some of Biden's electoral votes should be rejected. Election law experts have widely rejected Gohmert's arguments. President Trump and his allies have filed some 50 lawsuits challenging election results. Nearly all have been dismissed or dropped. Iran announced today that it intends to expand its enrichment of uranium. The head of Iran's civilian nuclear program said the country will increase production to 20% purity, quote, as soon as possible. The United Nations International Atomic Energy Agency said Iran had informed its inspectors of the decision in a letter received yesterday. Iran has reached this level of enrichment before, but stopped after the country agreed to the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action known as the Iran nuclear deal. President Trump withdrew the U.S. from that agreement in 2018. 20% purity is well below the 90% purity needed for weapons, but it far exceeds the limit set by the 2015 deal. The announcement comes one day before the first anniversary of the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, which has raised tensions between Washington and Tehran. For the latest national and international news, visit pbs.org/newshour. As we wrap up the holiday season, we want to bring you more from our team of producers and reporters here at NewsHour Weekend. Hari Srinivasan spoke with producer Laura Fong about some of the segments she's been working on throughout the year.
Laura, one of the things that we noticed early on, right when everything went into lockdown, was schools shutting down and graduates, especially high school graduates, having to deal with graduating in COVID. You did a story on that.
When everything was shutting down, I immediately thought of students, actually. I used to be a teacher. I did Teach for America for 2 years. And I thought about how are students, especially in that senior year, how are they going to deal with graduation? I found a drive-in in Kentucky that was doing it, and they connected me with the local high school, and I got to speak with 2 seniors and the mom of one of those seniors, and they were just such a special community that was trying to make this experience as special and as safe as possible.
It was the first of its kind parade for Eminence High School's graduating class in Eminence, Kentucky, less than an hour east of Louisville.
Madison heading out for a senior parade.
In normal times, the students would take a ceremonial walk through the halls of school, called the Senior Walk. But this year, they adapted it for social distancing and called it the Senior Parade.
The students were so humble. They knew that they were missing out on their senior trip, which they'd been looking forward to for years, but they knew that this was what they needed to do, and they adapted. And everyone in the whole community showed up for them.
One of the stories you and I did when we were all filming together in New York was about the gig economy and about how it's affecting drivers, whether the Lyft drivers or taxi drivers. And there was a big kind of election-focused story in California, Prop 22. What was it about? What happened?
Prop 22 is a ballot measure that app companies like Uber, Lyft, DoorDash got on the November ballot.
More than $181 million towards the Yes on Prop 22 campaign, making it the most expensive ballot initiative in California history.
They wanted to overturn a law that the state legislature passed, saying that their drivers needed to be classified as employees, giving them this, the protections and benefits of employees. It did get 58% of the vote. As a result of this law passing, they are going to be making sure that all their drivers have 120% of the minimum wage, which you would hope they would be getting anyways, but there are cases where these drivers were not getting that. It could happen in other states if Uber and Lyft lobby other states to pass a law that allows their workers there to also be considered independent contractors with these added benefits, because there are lawsuits pending in other states regarding the classification of whether or not these workers are employees.
One of the farthest afield that we have ever gone on NewsHour Weekend was a story that you and Maury Rothman shot out in the Rose Atoll, a tiny speck of a piece of land way out in the Pacific. You stopped in American Samoa on the way, did some stories there. And American Samoa is a place that has, no or almost no coronavirus cases? What happens when the government decides to absolutely shut down a border, which you can do a lot easier when you're an island?
There's a lot of islands that have taken this stance of being extremely strict about closing its borders, and that's because of the limited medical resources that they have. The consequence of this is they have estimated 562 residents who are stranded here in the US.
What time are you going to come back home? When are you going to come back home?
Fiti Aina is stranded in Honolulu, Hawaii, 2,600 miles away from his home, his wife Danielle, and their 6 kids.
There is a provisional date set for the first flight, but at this point, the residents who I've spoken to, they don't know if they're going to be on that flight or if it's going to be delayed.
You know, a lot of our viewers don't know that you're one of the producers who are there every Saturday and Sunday dealing with the breaking news, usually kind of the lead story or the top story that we're dealing with. This has been a pretty outrageously phenomenal 9 months to be in the news business. There's been so much information. Are there days that stick out to you?
The first one I could think of was when John Lewis passed. We were on call when that happened, and he had such an impact on so many lives. Shout out to Sally Garner, our news editor. She wrote the obit, and I pulled all the assets and cut it together, and we made it work. We are constantly just trying to keep on top of all the news conferences, especially in those early months where there was like back-to-back conferences from the White House.
Adding to the confusion, the president said he would not be wearing a mask.
I don't think I'm going to be doing it.
From governors.
Can we handle that number of cases at the high point of the curve?
It was a lot. I'll be honest. It was a blur.
Federal government's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, warned today that the coming surge of cases in the coronavirus pandemic could cause more than 100,000 deaths in this country.
I did look back on some of our news summaries from those early days, and it is startling to think about how much of those predictions came true, if not more true. Some of the predictions of how many people were going to pass, I mean, it seemed unbelievable at the time.
That was producer Laura Fong. We continue the conversation with NewsHour Weekend producer Zachary Green, who has a roundup of some of his segments from last year.
Zach, we did a lot of stories about race and equity this year. One of them was you diving back into a debate from 55 years ago. Tell us about it.
Well, this was a debate that took place in 1965 between William F. Buckley, the founder of the National Review, and James Baldwin, the author and essayist and playwright and civil rights activist, among many other things. It was about the idea of whether or not the American dream comes at the expense of Black people in America. And this was a debate that I was kind of slightly obsessed with for the better part of 7 years, I'd say. Last year, somebody published a book about it. His name is Nicholas Buccola. He's a professor of political science. The book is called The Fire is Upon Us.
It just seemed to me just such a dramatic moment and such an important one. These two movements that did so much to define 20th century political history, to have these two figures clashing was just irresistible.
What was really fascinating about it was just seeing the way that the same issues that surround race that we're seeing play out now were the same issues playing out 55 years ago. And when you watch that debate, you can see that even though times have changed, policies have changed, the ways that, we approach race and equity in this country hasn't really changed that much in 55 years.
You also took a trip back to your hometown to see how the Black Lives Matter movement was doing there. Why?
Yeah, I grew up in Western Massachusetts in Berkshire County. It is a beautiful place to grow up. It's very rural. It's exactly what you think of when you think of quintessential New England. One thing that happened this year that really caught my attention was that my hometown of Great Barrington, Massachusetts, which is a town of like a few thousand people, had a very well-attended Black Lives Matter demonstration of about 1,000 people. That's a huge chunk of the population to come out and protest in favor of Black Lives Matter. But it also sort of made me think, what does that mean in the context of everything else that goes on there? Because Berkshire County is a very white place, but there has always been a Black population living there. I really wanted to re-examine what it was like for other people who didn't look like me growing up where I grew up.
There's a lot of handed down generational racism or bigotry that sort of is the underpinning of the Berkshires. It's strangely enough one of the kids I used to have a huge problem with growing up. One of the kids my daughter had a problem with, I came to find out, is the son of this dude. No one is born intrinsically racist. You can tell exactly what is going on with parents by how their children act.
One of the other things that, you and I did this year was a product called Briefly, which was a way to try to make sense of those interminably long news briefings about the coronavirus that weren't brief.
Basically, we were sitting, watching these briefings, watching our colleagues report on them, and just kind of feeling a little aghast at how these things were playing out. The president has a lot of power, and the bully pulpit is maybe the most powerful tool that he has. And the messaging that we were getting was, was confusing and maybe at worst disingenuous. We just felt like we had a role to play here to actually watch through these briefings and see what was said in them that could actually be of use to the American people. We kind of subjected ourselves to these hour-plus long briefings and then tried to condense them into a watchable format of 5 minutes, I think was the shortest one, 15 minutes on the long end, to just say, here's what we watched and here's what we think you really need to know.
We watched so other people wouldn't have to.
That's right. We learned how to say hydroxychloroquine.
And we learned to say it well.
Very well.
And repeatedly. Zach Green, thanks for all your stories. Happy holidays.
You too, Hari. Thanks.
The Grammy Awards are coming up this month. Those, of course, are the record industry's highest honors for a wide variety of musical styles plus other audio achievements. But there's no category for music and dialogue on online audio services, which brings us to a recent release by musician Rufus Wainwright, who has found a unique way to tell the story, or at least a story, of his life. NewsHour Weekend special correspondent Tom Casciato has more.
Sometimes I feel like my brain
Rufus Wainwright's most recent album is called Unfollow the Rules. And he's always ready to do just that. Listen to him disrupt this fluid melody with a single note. This is the artist, after all, who earned his first Grammy nomination 12 years ago, recreating a famed 1961 performance by Judy Garland.
We're gonna be going to the promised land. We're heading across the river.
Now he's unfollowed the rules again with a unique audio autobiography called Road Trip Elegies. It combines performance with conversations held on an almost 400-mile car trip from his hometown of Montreal all the way to New York City. Conversations with his therapist.
I just had this vision all of a sudden of creating like a kind of podcast type situation, but involving both my therapy sessions and song.
And of course, it being therapy, there's a lot about his parents. Rufus's mother, Kate McGarrigle, was an accomplished performer who joined her sister Anna to become one of Canada's great singer-songwriter duos.
Some say heart is just like a wheel. When you bend it, you can't mend it.
His father, Loudon Wainwright III, is another noted singer-songwriter, known to sing a song or two about fathers and sons.
When I was your age, I thought I hated my dad, and that the feeling was a mutual one that we had. We fought each other day and night.
Both my parents were very successful in their field, and I was made aware of that and really participated in that from a very young age. And I always have embraced this family tradition.
That's a determination did so well for me that now I am the ruler of the Queen's Navy.
Have you always embraced it? Because there's a point in the story where you say that your Aunt Anna tells you that almost that you have to embrace it.
Yes. Well, yes, I've always embraced it. I think probably 90%. My mother sadly passed away about 10 years ago, and interestingly enough, and this connects to therapy, is that it was once she died, I actually realized that there were moments that I was quite angry for having been pushed into this profession.
It was through his mother Kate's and his mutual love of opera, Rufus says, that they always connected. With his father, it was Broadway shows.
When I was about 6 or 7, I saw Annie on Broadway, and I was utterly transfixed. And I immediately told my mother that I wanted to be Annie. And my mom, who didn't miss a beat, immediately told me that, in fact, there were certain productions in nether regions of Canada where they do Annie with all boys. And she said, if one of these auditions come up, we'll go and we'll, you could play Annie. None of that existed. That was completely false.
All these years later, what does that tell you about your mother?
No, my mom was incredibly intent and really put all of her energy into training her children, both my sister and I, my sister Martha, training to be on the stage. I mean, and she wasn't, and I don't mean that she was a stage mother, because that's very different. It wasn't about like pushing us, she didn't want us to do commercials. She didn't want to put us on TV or anything, but she wanted us to really know music intimately and really be masters of our craft. So I'm now going to do a song from Annie.
Maybe far away.
Rufus's relationship with his mother was complicated. As Road Trip Elegies tells it, Kate was less than enthusiastic upon learning of her son's sexual identity.
One day, my mom discovered some dirty magazines under my bed. Classic story. And I got home, and she was sitting in the living room. She had a scotch in one hand and a cigarette in the other. And I sat down, and all she said to me was, "Rufus, don't tell me something I don't want to hear." It was not an ideal situation with both my parents, actually. But I mean, I spent most time with my mother. She wasn't a religious person necessarily, but she had, been brought up by nuns and stuff. So I think that kind of happened. Also, I came out very young. I was only 13 when I started to really know what was going on, and that was a very scary time, with AIDS. And so I think there was a lot of fear there. Yeah, she wasn't great about that, but we came to terms eventually.
Some 24 years later, it would be no coincidence, he says, that he would write his first opera about a diva losing her voice, right as his mother was losing her life to cancer. An avid cross-country skier, Kate McGarrigle drew the image that would mark the front of her gravestone. Rufus designed the back.
I did a drawing for her that was like a banjo on the ocean. And then these are some of her lyrics. Let the sun set on the ocean. I will watch it from the shore. Let the sun rise over the redwoods. I'll rise with it till I rise no more. And that's from a song she wrote called Mendocino. And so I put my little illustration on the back.
I bid farewell to the state of old New York.
There's much more to Road Trip Elegies, more music. Plus, tales of boarding school, his complex relationship with his father, support he received from songwriting master Leonard Cohen, even a therapeutic breakthrough of sorts involving his paternal grandmother, whom he credits as his greatest supporter when he was young. And while they may not give out awards for projects as hard to categorize as Road Trip Elegies, they do for albums like Unfollow the Rules.
Yes. And I will say my recent Grammy-nominated album, Unfollow the Rules.
The record is up for a 2021 Grammy Award for Best Traditional Pop Album. One of its rivals, Renee Zellweger, doing the songs from her biopic of Judy Garland.
You're up against a Judy Garland album, Renee Zellweger's album.
I know.
You invented doing Judy Garland while not being.
And actually, my Judy record was nominated for the very same category many years ago. And look, I'm quite good friends with Renee, and I thought her job on the movie was fantastic. you know, but we'll keep it there. Because if she, well, I hope, whoever wins is great. May the best Judy win.
That's all for this edition of PBS NewsHour Weekend. For the latest news updates, visit pbs.org/newshour. I'm Michael Hill. Thanks for watching, stay healthy, and have a good night.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Anderson Family Fund, Bernard and Denise Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg, the Leonard and Norma Chlorfine Foundation, Charles Rosenblum. We try to live in the moment to not miss what's right in front of us. At Mutual of America, we believe taking care of tomorrow can help you make the most of today. Mutual of America Financial Group, retirement services and investments. Additional support has been provided by Consumer Cellular and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
You're watching PBS.